Today I'm gonna be covering the DC Compact comic Batman Arkham Asylum. This is a re-release of an older story by Grant Morrison and Dave McCain. This comic also covers the history of Arkham Asylum, so for anyone who liked the video game, you might be interested in what this comic book has to say. Now, there are also in the Arkham Asylum video game certain elements of this story. For example, the audio recordings of the founder of Arkham Asylum can be found in the video game Arkham Asylum. And I thought that the horror aspect of the Arkham Asylum itself is being underscored by the history of its creator and the hardship he went through. You can already tell from the cover that the Joker is portrayed in a way more animalistic manner, and I don't even know what those different markings and whatnot are about, but this is a theme in this comic book. There is so much insanity being portrayed visually that you might even feel that you go insane yourself trying to figure out what it means. And I gotta say, this is one of the most memorable comic books I've ever read, DC Compact comics that I've ever read. Now, it's my first compact comic, so the first thing that stands out to me is how it is presented in a almost manga-like format. I actually really like this because the small format makes it easy for me not only to hold the book, but also to take it with me if I were to go somewhere. And the illustration quality is not limited by that format. However, I would say that the lettering suffers a bit because it can be difficult to read what, for example, the Joker in the book actually says. But that's not a big deal considering all the good things that this comic book does. One of the most memorable moments of this comic book has been, to me, how the Joker is just narrating the insanity of Arkham Asylum. I like the way he talks. I like the way it is presented because it is no generic villain speech or anything like that. It isn't even focused on Batman too much. You have a lot of focus on the different Arkham Asylum inmates like Harvey Dent or even Maximum Zeus, which, if you don't know who he is, I also had no idea for a long while. So apparently it's a guy who believes he's Zeus and he likes electricity a lot. Yeah, there's that. The way Batman is presented in this comic book is also like a very monstrous figure, really something that should be feared. And I would say that this is in presentation of Batman that we rarely see. It looks like something that one would experience if they were to be confronted with the Scarecrow's scare toxin or fear toxin. And then when they look at Batman, like something like that might pop up. But he's very intimidating. He's huge, and he uses force against some inmates in this comic book where, I don't know, it don't seem like it's appropriate. Like, he seems pretty brutal, but I guess what can you do when you're confronted with so much insanity and darkness? Now, to close off, you have multiple illustrations or thumbnails rather of the story itself, and I like these small insights of the rough drafts for the first um, for the first drafts of this comic book. And what I also really like about this DC Compact comic is there are different illustrations that look like tarot cards, or you have the Joker being presented in multiple various angles and slightly different color schemes. You have the Batman, who is also painted in a very dark and grim demeanor. And then you have one of the most fascinating aspects of this book. They show to you how the face of the Joker was put together. So apparently the artist used a clay mask to then eventually photograph it and then somehow arrange the imagery in the books with also paint and whatnot, so that you have a unique experience, like something I've never seen before. Like, I don't even know how to explain how ingenious this is, using photography in comic books. I've heard of this happening before, but right now I'm not too sure. I think it was in a Daredevil comic book. Someone did the same thing using photography to illustrate the comic book. And I wish that there would be more of that in the current day. In the current day, there's a lot of digital art software being used. And I think that we are moving away from the traditional things to the point where the arts might suffer a little bit, because when I look back at comic books like Batman Arkham Asylum, it is not only a fascinating read because it's a great story, but you need to look at each individual page multiple times before you understand what actually is going on. And this effect is accentuated by the ability of the artist to use multiple different mediums and then remix them so that they create this illustration. Now, those are my thoughts on the DC Compact Comics format and Batman Arkham Asylum. I would like to know what you think about it. Do you think that maybe there should be more DC Compact comics, or do you believe that there should be less and we should maybe stick with the traditional floppy format or the compendiums and whatnot, and the paperbacks? Now, I would also like to know what you think about the design of Batman in this comic book, because I'm sure that there are multiple different opinions about this. To me, he looks like he got such a big frame. It's similar to Frank Miller's Batman in a way, but this one is way darker. You can barely even make out silhouettes, or you can barely make out the features of his character. Now, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe, like, maybe check out my Twitch if you feel like it. And overall, have a great day.